The competition in June will be the best chance to enter the inner sect. Rumor has it that the soul refining sect's most prized treasure is a soul flag with more than 100 million souls. The moment it appears, the sky changes colors. It is considered one of the top treasures in Suzaku. In addition to that, the soul refining sect focuses on refining soul flags, and all of their techniques relate to the sect's treasured soul flag. Although other sects throughout Suzaku also know how to capture and refine souls, they can't compare to the soul refining sect. If I can learn how they do it and refine a soul flag using wandering souls, it shouldn't be any weaker than the restriction flag. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he waved his hand. A series of illusionary restrictions appeared and landed on the surrounding walls. Then he took out a pure white celestial jade. This celestial jade was missing a piece, but the celestial energy it gave off wasn't much different from before. Now that my cultivation has recovered to the mid-stage of nascent soul, I can swallow another piece of celestial jade to attempt to break the T-mark and seal in my body. Wang Lin took a deep breath. Then he broke off a small piece of the jade and put it in his mouth. Unimaginable pain suddenly spread throughout his body. At this moment, in a valley surrounded by mountains in Chu, one could hear crisp laughter and the cries of a tiger filled with grievance. It was spring inside the valley, so the ground was covered in green grass. Little Zhou was wearing a coat embroidered with a peony flower, red pants, and she had 2 little pigtails on her head. She was now sitting on top of a tiger with black stripes, and she had a huge smile on her face. Little White, you didn't do as you were told, so I'm punishing you by making you eat with chopsticks today. The tiger let out a growl with a hint of sadness. During this past year, he was constantly being tortured by this little devil. He would often wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare. All of his nightmares involved this little devil. Zhou clapped her little hands and smiled. Your roar is too loud, you need to be softer next time. I suddenly thought of something fun. Can you meow like a little kitten? Little White's growl was now filled with even more despair. I wonder when Uncle will come back. Little White, do you miss Uncle? Zhou let out a sigh and patted the tiger's head. The tiger let out a soft growl as an unenthusiastic response. He was still thinking about how a tiger like himself was going to mimic a cat's meow. Tai sat under the pagoda and looked at little Zhou with a gentle gaze. After a while, he let out a soft sigh. The news of Wang Lin's disappearance had already spread to Chu, but he decided to not tell Zhou. He believed that with his benefactor's strength, he would be able to get out of any danger. If benefactor said he would return within 9 years, then he would definitely come back by then. Tai revealed a look of firm belief in his eyes. 100 feet away from Tai sat the thunder toad. It just lied there enjoying the warm sun. It had almost been an entire year and it hadn't moved at all. While looking at the white clouds in the sky, the thunder toad sometimes missed his life inside the land of the ancient god. Ever since it was born, it had lived there and gradually grew up in there. There were constant battles in the land of the ancient god with other beasts for food and territory, and they were often life and death battles. During these countless vicious battles, the thunder toad slowly grew up and eventually learned how to spit out balls of lightning. After that, aside from a few beasts in the land of the ancient god, it didn't have to worry about anyone else. While he was thinking of the past, the thunder toad's stomach expanded and then went back to normal after a while. He thought of Wang Lin. It was Wang Lin who brought him out of the land of the ancient god. But the one he thought of more was that mosquito. Time slowly passed. In the blink of an eye, spring was over and it was now June. June may not have any special meaning to most, but to the outer sect disciples of the soul refining sect in Pilu, it was a very important time. The competition among the outer sect disciples was going to take place this month. After a series of competitions, one outer sect disciple will become an inner sect disciple. Wang Lin awakened from his closed-door cultivation and opened his eyes. His eyes were clear, but if one looked at them closely, they would see that they shined like the starry sky. The T-mark on his face had faded a lot and only 8 pieces remained. These 8 pieces were also the key points of Sun Tai's seal. The small piece of celestial jade had been completely absorbed by Wang Lin. Under the pressure of the celestial jade, large amounts of the T-domain and seal broke off, but he still wasn't able to remove it completely. Wang Lin muttered, "Peak of the late stage of nascent soul. He slowly stood up, took a deep breath and walked out of the cave. What I comprehend is the heaven's life and death domain. The more I see through the world's life and death, the more intertwined they become. Before I thought life was life and death was death, but now life can be death and death can be life. I, Wang Lin, have spent most of my life killing, so I have experienced death. In comparison to death, I haven't experienced much life. Li Muwen's new life is one and my own rebirth is another, but it is still not enough. Wang Lin walked out of the cave. He looked at the distant mountain and gently shook his head. My way of thinking has been changing after my rebirth from the ashes, especially during those few months at the Fire Cloud Village. The memories from there have been engraved deeply within me. I see life as life and death as death. I see life not as life and death not as death. These two perceptions match the early and mid stages of soul formation respectively. Wang Lin's clothes flapped loudly in the wind. This experience has given me some enlightenment. If I could go back to seeing life and death as death, then my domain will reach the late stage of soul formation. However, I will need another breakthrough to reach the peak of the late stage of soul formation. To get to that point, my domain will also have to reach its completion. The completed domain of a peak late stage soul formation cultivator is still different from a soul transformation cultivator's domain. That Li Yuanfeng's domain was able to take physical form and leave the T mark on my body. This kind of power is not something the domain of a peak late stage soul formation cultivator can compare to. That means that the completion of a domain at the soul formation stage is only one level. Reaching the soul transformation stage requires even more comprehension of one's domain. Wang Lin began to ponder. The current him didn't notice that a beautiful woman was silently watching him from a cave in the distance. This woman's gaze was a bit complicated. It was filled with confusion, doubt, and helplessness. Back in the celestial realm, Senior Joey gave me the Ascendant Crystal that can help me reach the Ascendant stage. This crystal must be formed by the cultivator's comprehension of their domain. Ascendant. I wonder when I will reach the Ascendant stage. Right now the seal hasn't been removed, so I don't even any hopes of reaching the soul transformation stage yet. Wang Lin softly sighed. Tian Yunzi accepted me as a disciple. Perhaps I should quickly find him, and maybe then I'll have a chance of reaching the Ascendant stage. However, I'm a bit unwilling to part with my current cultivation path. Situnan hasn't awakened yet, and I haven't gotten the planet crystal that can help my G realm breakthrough. What is more important is that everyone on that planet must have rather high cultivation levels, so if I go when I'm too weak, I won't catch Tian Yunzi's attention. Wang Lin was in deep thought until he suddenly seemed to notice something. He turned his head and saw the woman gazing at him. Who exactly is that woman? Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he floated toward that woman's cave. The woman withdrew her gaze and took a few steps back to make space. Wang Lin landed where the woman was standing. He coldly stared at the woman, not caring about how beautiful she was, and said, "Do you know me?" The woman looked at Wang Lin and gently said, "You don't remember me." Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He stared at the woman for a long time but still couldn't remember where he had met her. The mountain wind blew by and lifted her black hair, making her look like a fairy. She put her hair behind her ear and softly said, "I'm called Lu Mei." Lu Mei. Wang Lin looked at the woman and after a while said, "I don't know you." Lu Mei let out a gentle sigh and then a smile. Her smile was like a blooming flower that immediately overshadowed the surroundings. Senior apprentice Wang Lin, the youth who carried the large sword on his back in the Hung Yu sect. Can you really not remember? Wang Lin wasn't shocked at all when she pointed out his identity. When she called herself Lu Mei, Wang Lin had already guessed. Wang Lin blandly said, "The Lu Mei I know is a disciple of the Xian Dao sect with water spirit roots, not a disciple of Suzaku." Lu Mei was startled. This kind of expression rarely appeared on her face. She softly asked, "What does Senior Apprentice Brother Wang mean?" Wang Lin didn't reply but calmly looked at Lu Mei. Shortly after, Lu Mei lowered her head and softly said, "I'm afraid Senior Apprentice Brother Wang has some misunderstanding. For you to be able to appear in the Xiandao sect and also be able to appear here in the Soul Refining sect, I don't believe anyone else besides the country of Suzaku can do this." Wang Lin cut her off and turned around to leave. Lu Mei faintly smiled and said, "With just this much, Senior Apprentice Brother Wang was able to deduce that I'm from Suzaku. Is Senior Apprentice Brother Wang that sure?" I think that you are just testing me. Senior apprentice brother Wang, I won't lie to you. I'm indeed a disciple of Suzaku. Wang Lin shook his head, revealed a mocking smile and said, Am I really testing you? I have seen a bracelet like yours on Red Butterfly's hand. With that, Wang Lin's body gently floated away. Lu Mei lowered her head and looked at the bracelet on her arm. When the mountain wind blew earlier, it revealed her bracelet. She looked at Wang Lin's figure as he left. Then she let out a sigh and mumbled. He has changed a lot in the last 500 years. He is no longer an ignorant youth. The current him has a heart of steel. But what exactly is his Dao heart? No one knew Wang Lin's Dao heart other than himself. Wang Lin felt gloomy after Lu Mei's appearance. The country of Suzaku was like this massive giant, and its presence could be felt by everyone everywhere on the planet. The higher his cultivation level became, the more he became aware of this feeling. Although his stay at Suzaku was short, that sense of danger was engraved in his heart. No matter whether it was at the Celestial Cave where all the servants were mute, or during his fight with Red Butterfly, he felt this huge pressure on him that made it hard to even breath. It felt like the sky covered by a massive black cloud. And unless he had the power to break through the black cloud, there wasn't any way to resist. The country of Suzaku was the supreme ruler of the planet Suzaku. However, from Wang Lin's point of view, although the country of Suzaku was the ruler, there was a hint of death. This wasn't a real death aura but a feeling. The country lacked change, and without change it was dying. I'm afraid that Suzaku has reached its end. Wang Lin raised his head and looked into the distance. That direction was where Suzaku was located. 2 days later, the competition in the outer sect began. The tens of thousands of disciples were divided among hundreds of arenas. There were dozens of fights a day on each arena. Among these outer sect disciples, there were rogue cultivators and cultivators from cultivation families. All of them had the goal of joining the inner sect. There was only one rule, and that was to win. They didn't care about the life and death of the outer sect disciples at all. If you had the ability, you could kill everyone and they wouldn't care. There was even a rumor that the more you killed, the higher chance you have of entering the inner sect. If there was someone who killed everyone they fought, their chances of entering the inner sect would be unimaginably high. This rumor would go around every time the competition started. A long time ago, there was one fiend who killed his way through the competition. Although he failed to win, he was still accepted into the inner sect in the end. The one extraordinary occurrence caused this rumor to spread like wildfire. Every time there was competition, less than half of the outer sect disciples would be alive after it ended. The losers would have to pay even more spirit stones to ensure that they could stay for the next competition. No one could keep track of or knew how many outer sect disciples had died throughout all these years. After each competition, the main soul flag in the sect gained countless souls. The entire soul refining sect kept on growing stronger thanks to this cruel method. Every day, a large amounts of outer sect disciples died. The more than 100 battle arenas were flooded with blood. Wang Lin carefully observed over these past few days. Every time someone died, their soul would be absorbed by the arena and disappear. On the day of Wang Lin's battle, he gently floated onto the battle arena. A core formation inner disciple wearing a black robe was managing this battle arena. He coldly looked at Wang Lin and was shocked to find that Wang Lin's cultivation level was close to his. Not many outer sect disciples could reach this level of cultivation. He said, Number 8972 Battle. A shout came from the surrounding disciples, and then a short and fat disciple jumped out from among the disciples like a ball of meat and landed on the arena. He didn't say a word. Right after he appeared, his hand formed a seal and balls of fire appeared. Then they smashed down toward Wang Lin like a rain of fire. Late stage of foundation establishment. Wang Lin shook his head. For this competition, he had locked his cultivation level to the mid-stage of core formation. He waved his hand and jumped off the stage. The moment he jumped off the stage, the short and fat disciple's body trembled. All of the fire disappeared and the disciple fainted. Wang Lin didn't kill him. To kill a foundation establishment junior was simply too shameful. As time passed, many outer sect disciples died. After 7 days, aside from the 100 that made it through, 50% of the remaining outer sect disciples had died. The remaining ones all either gave up ahead of time or both sides were heavily injured, so they lived. During these 7 days, for people among the outer sect disciples caught people's attention. Among the four of them there was a gray-haired old man at the late stage of core formation. Everyone he encountered was killed by the same technique. All he did was point at the person, said the word die, and his enemy would fall over and die. When Wang Lin saw this technique, he immediately thought of the Ji realm and was shocked. However, when he looked closely, this technique was different from the Ji realm. Death spell. After pondering for a while, Wang Lin guessed the name of the spell. Back in the Sea of Devils, his Ji realm was mistaken for the death spell. That's how he learned about it. This death spell was very difficult to cultivate. In his 500 years of cultivation, this was the first time he had seen it. The other person was a very small and thin young man. Although he was only at the early stage of core formation, he was like a wild beast. He was also able to detect the flow of spiritual energy before someone could use a technique, and would act accordingly. If he was fighting someone stronger than him, it wouldn't be of much use, but against people of the same cultivation level, it was a heavenly advantage. Wang Lin couldn't help but appreciate this talent. He even had the urge to take him as a disciple, but he quickly threw that idea out of his mind. The third person was someone Wang Lin was familiar with. It was the butcher-like cultivator from Cave 743. He had a talisman treasure that had killed countless people. Everyone he battled was killed by the talisman. As for the last person, it was Wang Lin himself. He breezed his way through the competition and knocked out every disciple with just a wave of his sleeves. This would naturally catch the attention of everyone. However, this was something Wang Lin was doing on purpose. Only by doing this would it not seem strange when he enters the inner sect. As for Lu Mei, he assumed that she had some sort of agenda. Even if she didn't appear in the competition, she would be able to get into the inner sect somehow. Time quickly passed and 7 more days went by. Of the 100 or so disciples, only 4 remained. It just so happened that the 4 remaining people were the 4 that caught the eyes of the soul refining sect. This was the day of Wang Lin's battle. He stood on the stage as he watched his opponent walk onto the stage and reveal a weird smile. The person who came up wasn't a stranger but the butcher-like cultivator from Cave 743. The person in charge of this battle was an early-stage nascent soul cultivator from the inner sect. He was already middle-aged with graying sideburns. He looked around and coldly said, "Battle start." The moment he finished speaking, the butcher-like cultivator bitterly smiled and said, "I give up." The nascent soul cultivator was startled. He looked at the butcher-like cultivator and asked, "You give up?" The butcher-like cultivator quickly nodded and said, "I surrender." With that, he quickly got off the stage. His heart was pounding as he secretly thought, "I still have the restriction that brat placed in my body. He could have killed me with just a thought." After he got off the stage, he let out a smile to try to please Wang Lin. Wang Lin let out a smile and faintly shook his head before walking off the stage. The nascent soul cultivator thoughtfully looked at Wang Lin, and then went on to manage the second battle. The battle between the old man who controlled the death spell and the young man with very good instincts was quick. The young man wasn't able to resist the death spell at all. When he wasn't able to hold on anymore, he was saved by a ray of spiritual energy that came all the way from the inner sect. At this point, only 2 people remained in this outer sect competition: Wang Lin and the old man who was named Sima. The battle between the two started on the second day. Sima's eyes were gloomy as he stood on the stage. He had cultivated the death spell for so long just for this day. Once he enters the inner sect, he will have a chance to form his nascent soul. Moreover, the soul refining sect's soul flag would go very well his death spell. According to his teacher, if he cultivated both at the same time, his power would be close to that of the long-lost and legendary Ji realm. When thinking of his teacher, his eyes were filled with a hint of fanaticism. His teacher was able to kill any nascent soul cultivator just by uttering the word die, and only a few soul formation cultivators would be able to escape. In his mind, his teacher had the ability to challenge soul transformation old monsters. Death spell. Unless someone has a much higher cultivation level than you, they won't be able to resist the death spell. The death spell is rumored to come from the ancient cultivation world, when the cultivators back then tried to mimic the Ji realm. Rumor has it that cultivating the death spell to its peak allows one to gain a sliver of the Ji realm. His master's words still echoed in his head as Sima stared at his last opponent. He didn't consider the young man named Qingmu a threat at all. Killing intent flashed across his eyes and he said, "Die!" The death spell shot out toward Wang Lin as he said the word. The death spell was created by ancient cultivators who studied the Ji realm. Although it was difficult to cultivate, it was easier to control than the impossible to control Ji realm. Once it was completed, all one would have to say was die, and the targeted person would immediately die. In order to cultivate this technique, one has to fuse 3 auras into one. The 3 auras are the death aura, EN aura, and killing aura. The death aura comes from absorbing energy from corpses. Although this is a type of EN energy, it is filled with death. The second EN aura is EN energy from the souls of females. This EN aura contains life. After obtaining those 2 auras, the cultivator has to fuse them, and then combine the result with a third aura, the killing aura. After fusing the 3 auras, they will experience a trial with only a 10% chance of survival. Whoever lives through it will be able to start using the death spell. Once one starts cultivating the death spell, they will have to suffer an unimaginable amount of pain every day, and go through a trial every 3 years with only 10% chance of surviving each one. After experiencing several cycles, the death spell reaches its first stage of completion. If one wishes to continue to cultivate it, their chance of death increases. This spell tries to mimic the Ji realm. However, it is much weaker than the Ji realm and much more dangerous to cultivate, making it somewhat pyrrhic. Although its offensive capability is amazing, the death spell eventually became a lost technique as fewer and fewer people cultivated it. Sima said the word die and activated the death spell. A strange fluctuation of spiritual energy immediately began to spread out from the finger he was pointing with. The air was like a calm pool of water that just had a rock thrown in. Countless ripples spread in the air. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a mysterious light. He didn't move at all as he experienced the death spell. The moment Sima pointed at him, he felt a sliver of EN aura inside his body. This EN aura was very different from the EN energy he had used to cultivate the underworld ascension method. The moment that EN aura appeared, another aura appeared within his body. The appearance of this aura shocked Wang Lin. If it had appeared in his original body, he wouldn't be surprised, but this body hadn't killed much at all, yet a bit of killing aura still formed. Although this killing aura was faint, it fused with the EN aura to form a very sharp blade that charged directly into his origin soul. However, with Wang Lin's strength, he only needed one thought to destroy this mysterious power. With one thought, his origin soul froze this mysterious power. Due to his understanding of the Ji realm, he was able to instantly see through the death spell. Although the death spell was powerful, it was still far too weak compared to the Ji realm. The Ji realm was a mutation from the divine retribution lightning. It would instantly kill cultivators of the same realm. This death spell was a technique that could kill anyone with a lower cultivation level in one hit, but had very little effect on people with higher cultivation levels. For example, if a mid-stage core formation cultivator were to use it, they would instantly kill anyone with a lower cultivation level. Even against cultivators at the same level, it had a chance to succeed, and if not, it would at least shock the enemy. However, when facing a late-stage core formation cultivator, this technique was not very useful, and if the user was not careful, they would be affected by backlash. This was far too weak compared to the Ji realm. Wang Lin faintly shook his head. Although this death spell was mysterious, it was useless to him. With a thought, the mysterious power of the death spell disappeared from his body. The moment it dissipated, Sima's pupils shrank, his body trembled, and he coughed out a mouthful of blood. He wasn't able to contain the injury caused by the backlash of the death spell, so he fell to the ground. At this moment, another ray of spiritual energy shot out from the inner sect and dragged Sima's body into the inner sect. Without any suspense, Wang Lin became the winner of this competition. The inner sect disciple in charge of this fight clasped his hands at Wang Lin and said, "My name is Wang Zhen. The next time we meet, I'll have to call you junior apprentice brother. Qingmu, come and follow me to meet the elder." Wang Lin nodded and smiled. He followed Wang Zhen into the inner sect. The inner sect of the soul refining sect was like heaven. When he passed through the formation, he saw 3 heaven-piercing mountains. As they flew, Wang Zhen explained, "These 3 mountains belong to the 3 factions that exist within the soul refining sect. They are soul refining, soul extracting, and soul sealing. Wang Lin nodded and looked toward the 3 mountains. Behind the 3 mountains were giant rings of golden light. They each seemed to contain their own universe as they lit up the entire sect. Those 9 golden rings of light are where the 9 soul formation seniors cultivate. One day I'll reach the soul formation stage and become the 10th golden ring. Wang Zhan's voice was filled with desire. Wang Lin looked at the golden rings of light. From here he could clearly feel that the 9 golden rings were emitting powerful spiritual energy. If I can recover, none of the cultivators in the 9 rings of light will be a match for me. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. Wang Zhan turned his head and asked, Qingmu, do you know about Zheng Niu? Zheng Niu. Wang Lin calmly nodded and said, I've heard of him. My soul refining sect had 10 soul formation cultivators, but one of them was killed by Zheng Niu. Wang Zhan's eyes were filled with admiration. He is my goal. One day, I'll become the number 1 cultivator below the soul transformation stage on Suzaku. Oh really? He thought for a long time but couldn't remember when he killed a soul formation cultivator from the soul refining sect. Wang Zhan said, Not many people know of this though. This soul formation ancestor was visiting other countries but got into an argument with Zheng Niu and was killed by him. Wang Lin rubbed his nose. He really couldn't remember at all. This Zheng Niu sure did disappear at the right time. My soul refining sect's Dun Tian was about to go ask him about this matter. Wang Zhan sighed. Ancestor Du Tian? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. It's not a big deal to tell you this now since you will become a member of the inner sect. Our soul refining sect has 2 soul transformation ancestors. One of them is Ancestor Du Tian. Wang Lin raised his head. He could faintly see a trace of a blood-red aura behind the 9 golden rings of light. As the 2 talked, they arrived at the soul refining mountain. At the top of the mountain there was a hall made of green stones. Wang Zhan said, Qingmu, go inside. The elder will arrange things for you. Wang Lin nodded and calmly walked into the hall. The hall was completely dark. The moment he entered, he felt a pressure surrounding him. Only this pressure was nothing to Wang Lin. He revealed an expression that made him look like he couldn't bear this pressure and stopped walking. After a few seconds, the pressure receded and an ancient voice said, Come up. Wang Lin released a look of relief and walked up. The hall suddenly lit up and green lights lit up around the hall. At the center of the hall sat an old man wearing a green robe. He was looking at Wang Lin. This person's cultivation level had reached the peak of the late stage of nascent soul. He was only missing his own domain to reach the soul formation stage. The old man withdrew his gaze from Wang Lin and blandly asked, What is your name? Wang Lin clasped his hands and respectfully answered, Disciple's name is Qingmu. The old man's eyes became serious and he asked, How did you break Sima's death spell? Wang Lin calmly responded, Disciple has hidden his cultivation level. My real cultivation level is at the peak of the late stage of core formation, so the death spell naturally wasn't able to hurt me. The old man nodded. From his point of view, this Qingmu was not lying and had indeed hidden his cultivation level. From the moment he entered, the old man noticed that his cultivation level was not at the mid-stage of core formation but at the peak of the late stage of core formation. The old man arrived before Wang Lin in the blink of an eye. His finger was as fast as lightning as he pressed it between Wang Lin's eyebrows. Wang Lin didn't dodge. The moment the finger touched him, a cold energy entered his body, but with Wang Lin's origin soul, he wasn't worried at all. Shortly after, the old man withdrew his finger. His eyes were no longer cold. He said, I'm the head elder of the soul refining mountain. You can go to the side mountain to pick up your token and close. You can also go to the soul refining mountain's library to pick out a technique. Also, you can open up a cave on any part of the mountain to cultivate. There are no teachers in the soul refining sect. Everyone cultivates on their own. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Now go. Wang Lin nodded and respectfully left. Shortly after he left, 2 powerful divine senses appeared inside the hall. Junior apprentice brother. How is this person? The old man snorted and said, Nothing to worry about. Junior apprentice brother, in these past several years, all of the ancestors have been in closed-door cultivation. We have to hold down the fort and not let anyone with ill intent enter. The old man's voice was cold as he said, What a joke. It's not like we don't already have a lot of people in the soul refining sect with ulterior motives. One more won't be too much and one less won't be too little. 1 out of 10 disciples under my 2 senior apprentice brothers have ulterior motives. You too should manage your own mountains. Matters of my soul refining mountain are none of your concerns. Junior disciple's grievance is strong. That junior with the anticipation intuition was chosen by me. That person who knows the death spell was picked by the junior apprentice brother in charge of the soul sealing mountain. The last person left is the winner of the competition. Is junior apprentice brother still not happy? The old man's expression was ugly. What nonsense. Both of them have special abilities, but this person only has a slightly higher cultivation level. I won't be sending 2 senior apprentice disciples off. The 2 divine senses let out a loud laugh and then dissipated. Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense as he walked along the mountain. All of the soul formation and above cultivators are in closed-door cultivation, and the soul refining sect is being managed by the 3 of them. Wang Lin pondered this as he walked toward the side hall. After he got his token and clothes, Wang Lin noticed that it was still early in the day, so he went to the library. The library of the soul refining mountain wasn't large. It only had 3 floors. Looking from a distance, this library seemed very normal. When Wang Lin entered, his eyes focused on an old man sitting inside. The old man was very close to the nascent soul stage. He was only 1 step away. The old man's face was yellow, his body was skinny, and he looked very tired. When he noticed that someone had entered, he opened his eyes and said, "Token." Wang Lin handed over his token. The old man looked at it and said, "You can look around as you wish, but you're not allowed to go to the 3rd floor. The time limit is 3 days. Wang Lin nodded and entered the library. Looking at the 1st floor, there were rows of shelves with jades, bamboo carvings, and even stone carvings. Wang Lin's eyes swept past them. There was a wide variety of techniques here and they covered just about everything. There were techniques he already knew and techniques he had never seen before. Only there was nothing about refining a soul flag. After making his way through the 1st floor, he entered the 2nd floor. The number of techniques on the 2nd floor was lower than the 1st. They were scattered around the room with descriptions of each technique. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found the 4 words, Soul Flag Production Method. He picked up the jade to check and then frowned. This jade did indeed contain the method to creating a soul flag, but it was exactly the same as what everyone else did. If the soul refining sect really used this method, there was no way they would be as famous as they were now. After carefully searching through the 2nd floor, Wang Lin, who had found nothing he needed, looked toward the 3rd floor. He didn't do anything reckless and returned to the skinny elder. He clasped his hands and asked, "Senior, why can't I go up to the 3rd floor?" The old man yawned. He looked at Wang Lin and said, "You can't go up, so you can't go up. What's with all this nonsense?" Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he stared at the old man. The old man frowned. He muttered something and then impatiently said, "You don't need to stare. You want to look for the method to make the soul flag, right? I can tell you that it isn't here, and it isn't in the 3rd floor either. There are only 10 pieces of jade with the method to make the soul flag. If you want it, then go steal them. See, that cave over there has one. If you can steal it, you can learn it." Wang Lin looked toward where the old man was pointing. There was indeed a cave there. There aren't any rules in the soul refining sect. If you have the ability to kill, kill. If you want anything, steal it. And if you like any women, take them. If you don't have any ability, then find others who have no ability to cultivate together, so you can protect yourself. No rules. One can do as he wishes. Wang Lin let out a faint smile. This soul refining sect was indeed interesting. Wang Lin waved his hand and a giant invisible hand grabbed the old man. The old man was startled, but he let out a laugh. The impatient look on his face disappeared and was replaced with battle intent. "Good. Good. In these past 100 years, you are the 5th person to attack me. Okay, I'll play with you." With that, he moved his body to break free. Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He casually waved his hand and the old man was thrown by a powerful force toward the wall. The old man's head was spinning from the collision. He was about to let out an angry roar when he was picked up and thrown again. Bang, bang, bang. The continuous collisions caused the old man to cough out blood. Seeing that Wang Lin was going to continue, he quickly shouted, "Grandfather, please stop. I'm willing to call you grandfather. If you throw me anymore, this old body will break." Wang Lin released his grip. The old man fell to the ground and got up after a while. He let out a bitter smile and said, "Junior apprentice brother, with your strength, just go steal what you want. As long as you don't kill too many people, no one is going to bother you." Wang Lin looked at the old man and left. Shortly after, he arrived before the cave the old man had pointed at before. There were some restrictions outside the cave. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found that there was a middle-aged man cultivating inside. There was a side room with 2 female cultivators cultivating inside as well. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and his right hand moved, creating many illusionary restrictions. With a bang, all of the restrictions outside the cave collapsed along with the door. The old man in the distance shivered. He thought that the soul refining mountain had gained another person that couldn't be offended. The middle-aged man let out an angry roar because his cave was destroyed. He flew out an array of red light and without a word took out a small purple flag. Hundreds of souls flew out of the flag. There were males and females among these souls. They let out bursts of sharp shrills and charged toward Wang Lin. "Destroying my cave, you're courting death." Wang Lin remained calm. The person who charged out of the cave wasn't at the nascent soul stage. He was at the peak of the late stage of core formation like the elder from the library. However, the soul flag in his hand was a bit different. Wang Lin could clearly see a golden line on the soul flag, and the souls it released had a black aura around them. This was very different from the souls of normal soul flags that looked like they would dissipate if the wind blew on them. These hundreds of souls were full of energy, and a few of them gave off pressure no weaker than a normal core formation cultivator's. Growth. Wang Lin's eyes lit up because he saw what was different from this soul flag. The souls inside this soul flag had the ability to keep growing. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he reached out with his hand. The soul flag flew out of the middle-aged man's hand and into his. He wiped the divine sense from it and imprinted his own. Then he immediately felt a sense of harmony within his soul. With a wave of the soul flag, the souls that were charging at him were all absorbed by it. The core formation cultivator was dumbfounded. He sucked in a breath of cold air and immediately took out a black jade. He placed it on the ground, backed away and shouted, "I admit defeat, I admit defeat. The cave is yours, the jade is yours, and the flag is yours too. I have 2 cultivation concubines as well. I haven't touched one of them yet. You can have them too. I'm giving everything to you, so according to the rules, you can't kill me." With that, he quickly backed away. Wang Lin looked at this person. He didn't attack but waved his hand. The black jade flew into his hand and he carefully examined it. At this moment, 2 women walked out of the cave. Both of them were very beautiful and calm. They acted like this was completely normal and just quietly stood there. This is the real method for making the soul flags, however, it seems this isn't complete. Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense and frowned. One of the 2 women, she was wearing a blue dress, saw Wang Lin frown after reading the jade and asked, "Senior apprentice brother, did you notice that the method seems incomplete?" Wang Lin raised his head to look at the 2 of them. Both of them were at the early stage of core formation. Wang Lin asked, "Why is it like this?" The blue-robed woman quickly said, "Senior apprentice brother must be Qing Mu, the winner of the recent outer sect disciple competition. I, your junior apprentice sister, am called Su Yun." Su Yun greets senior apprentice brother. As for the reason the soul flag is incomplete, it is because it is split into 3 parts. Each part matches the name of the 3 mountains: soul refining, soul extracting, and soul sealing. By combining the 3 methods together, you will get the real soul flag production method. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He put the jade away and looked at the cave. This place didn't meet his standards. He spread out his divine sense and flew toward the bottom of the mountain. The 2 women were startled. They looked at each other before quickly following Wang Lin. It was very dangerous to be alone in the soul refining sect. Unless your cultivation was very powerful, you needed to rely on others. This was why there were many groups. Once you lose a battle, you must hand over everything. Once you handed everything over, the other person wasn't allowed to kill you or else the elders would interfere. These irrational rules made it so that no one felt like they belonged in the soul refining sect. However, no one knew why the soul refining sect did this. The senior apprentice brother they relied on was scared away by Wang Lin, so they would naturally need to follow Wang Lin. As Wang Lin flew, he frowned. He turned around and shouted, "Don't follow me." He coldly looked at the two women and turned around to leave. The woman next to Su Yun anxiously asked, "Senior apprentice sister, what should we do?" Su Yun stomped her feet and snorted, "What else can we do? If he won't let us follow him, then we won't follow. Once he finds a cave, we will open our cave near him. Maybe the others will give him face and not bother our cultivation." Near the bottom of the mountain, Wang Lin's eyes locked onto a cliff. He pointed at the cliff and a flying sword charged at it. It only took a few moments for a cave to form. After Wang Lin flew into the cave, he casually sent out a restriction and sealed the cave. Inside the cave, Wang Lin's gaze locked onto the wall. The reason he chose this spot was because it was closest to the spirit vein. Although he couldn't absorb the power of the spirit vein like before, he could still borrow its power. His body disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was before the main spirit vein under the soul refining mountain. After sitting down in the lotus position, he spread out his divine sense. What he found startled him. In the deepest part of the spirit vein, there was massive black gas that blocked out all divine senses. Spiritual energy from the spirit vein was being absorbed by the black gas. Wang Lin's divine sense was at the edge of the black gas. He was able to detect screams of souls that would occasionally appear inside the black gas. It stops divine sense? Wang Lin looked around and immediately found that there was a restriction around the black gas. It was because of this restriction that his divine sense couldn't enter. After looking at it for a bit, Wang Lin's eyes became focused. Could this be an ancient soul restriction? Wang Lin's heart trembled. Ancient soul restrictions were the most rare of ancient restrictions. This restriction used a soul as its medium. Not only did the ancient restriction change in a strange fashion, it was also much more powerful. Normal restrictions could be seen as dead objects. They were like locks that needed certain keys to open. But a soul restriction wasn't the same. It could be considered a living thing. In reality, it was a soul fragment that was being kept alive as a formation. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. After pondering for a while, he disappeared. When he reappeared, he was near the ancient soul restriction. Just as his body appeared, the black fog began to move and two ghostly eyes appeared. At the same time, a ghostly wail came from inside the fog. Wang Lin's origin soul shook after hearing the wail, so he quickly backed up. He stared at the black cloud and silently pondered. That roar just now was a warning. There must be a treasure if it requires a soul restriction to seal it. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His expression became serious as his hand quickly moved. One illusion after another appeared and surrounded his body. "Break!" Wang Lin shouted as he pointed at the black fog. The illusions around him transformed into a dragon and charged into the black fog. The two ghostly eyes were filled with anger and the fog began to move. Then came a roar even more impactful than the last. The roar entered Wang Lin's soul, and he immediately felt pain coming from the cracks on his origin soul. Wang Lin quickly backed up with a gloomy expression. Just at this moment, the black fog began to move even more violently and rapidly shrank. All of the black fog condensed at the center. In the blink of an eye, the black fog had condensed into a beast. The moment the beast appeared, Wang Lin could see that there was a small golden flag inside the fog. The black fog came from this flag. The beast landed on the ground. With its head facing Wang Lin, it opened its mouth and stared at Wang Lin with a ghostly gaze. The illusionary restrictions Wang Lin shot out earlier were all still flashing on the body of the beast. The beast waved its head and shot two streams of hot air out of its nose. Then it looked at Wang Lin and suddenly charged toward him. "Qilin!" Without any hesitation, Wang Lin disappeared. The beast missed. It looked into the distance and let out a roar. The roar traveled toward the spirit veins but was blocked by a gentle force after 1,000 feet. The beast let out a few more angry roars before turning back into black fog and disappearing back into the small golden flag. Wang Lin appeared in a spirit vein more than 1,000 feet away. He frowned slightly as he looked back at where the black fog was. It's not a Qilin, but it is similar to the Qilin that Ling Tianho had back in the celestial realm. That small golden flag must be a treasure of the soul refining sect. That beast is the guardian of the flag, as well as one of the souls inside it. It looks like the method to making the soul flag of the soul refining sect is closely related to the ancient soul restrictions. Only, I don't know what the exact methods are. Wang Lin's eyes sparkled as he pondered. This beast's power is around that of an early-stage soul formation cultivators. My cultivation hasn't recovered yet, so I'm in no rush to capture it. Wang Lin pondered a bit before going back to cultivate. After seeing Lu Mei, the feeling of danger Wang Lin felt towards Suzaku appeared once more. It was very bad that Lu Mei was able to find him. He secretly thought about it for a long time but still couldn't figure out her motive. He also couldn't see through her cultivation, which was why he didn't kill her earlier. All of this is very strange, and Suzaku's decisions makes no sense. If it comes down to it, I'll just leave Suzaku, go find Tian Yunzi, and leave this mess behind. Wang Lin began to ponder. Time quickly passed. In the blink of an eye, several more months had passed. When he first arrived, the area outside of Wang Lin's cave was filled with wild grass and was rather bleak. After all, the place he chose was too remote. But now there wasn't any wild grass, and someone had even planted flowers with great fragrance nearby. All of the rocks were cleared away and replaced with smoothly cut stone. There were even a few stone canopies scattered around. Someone even made a pool at the center with small, golden fish living in there that would occasionally create ripples. This gave the area fairyland-like aura. Su Yun and Lu Wei were sitting under one of the canopies with a plate of fruit before them. They were chatting with each other and would occasionally look toward the door of the cave. Lu Wei's brow trembled as she said, "Senior apprentice sister Su Yun, do you think that when senior apprentice brother Qianmu comes out, he will hate us for doing all of this without his permission?" Lu Wei was one of the two girls from earlier. She had a small body and was a head shorter than Su Yun, but her body was very beautiful and very exquisite. That shouldn't be the case since every cultivator likes a good environment. We made this place this beautiful. Even if he doesn't display any happiness on the surface, he won't be angry. Junior apprentice sister Lu Wei, relax. Su Yun smiled as she picked up a fruit and took a bite. Lu Wei revealed a look of joy and said, "In these past few months, senior brother Qingmu's reputation has been spread by us sisters, so our lives have been much better. If this can continue, it would be great. I managed to collect more broken souls in these past few months than I did in a year before." Su Yun nodded and said, "Without talent, as long as no one steals from us, we can definitely make 100-soul flag. Then we can use that to cultivate and reach the late stage of core formation for sure." Lu Wei whispered, "Senior apprentice sister, I'm still a bit worried because we are getting more and more visitors every day. If Senior Qingmu finds out that it is us causing all of it, he might not let us off easy." "He shouldn't." Before Su Yun could finish speaking, a ray of red light suddenly descended from the mountain's peak and landed before the entrance of the cave. The light revealed a very handsome middle-aged man. His long hair flowing in the wind gave off the feeling of a celestial. "Junior apprentice brother Qingmu. I'm Guodong Jian. I hope we can talk." Su Yun stood up and said, "Senior apprentice brother Guodong, please go back. Senior apprentice brother Qingmu is still in closed-door cultivation." Guodong Jian frowned. He turned to look at Su Yun and asked, "The two of you are Qingmu's concubines?" Lu Wei's face turned red and she didn't say a word. Su Yun's expression remained normal as she said, "Senior apprentice brother, we are indeed senior apprentice brother Qingmu's concubines." Guodong Jian's eyes became cold and he shouted, "What a bunch of nonsense! It's fine if you wish to fool others, but you dare to fool me. The two of you scram." With that, he turned around and raised his hand. A ray of spiritual energy shot out from his hand, turned into the shape of a dragon, and charged toward the cave. The moment the dragon appeared, the wind began to howl. When the dragon collided with the door of the cave, the restriction on the door flashed, stopping the dragon, and at the same time a giant hand appeared. The giant hand caught the dragon and squeezed it. The dragon let out a miserable howl before shattering. Guodong Jian's expression changed. He backed up several steps and stared at the cave. Wang Lin slowly walked out of the cave. When the sunlight hit Wang Lin, one could see black gas. The black gas slowly gathered behind him to form a giant skull. Thousand soul flag illusion. Guodongjian's expression changed again and he backed up even more. Wang Lin's eyes calmly scanned Guodongjian. This person's cultivation level was at the early stage of nascent soul. Surrender your soul flag and I'll let you leave. Wang Lin's voice was calm. Guodongjian's expression turned gloomy as he took out a small flag with 2 golden lines on it. He shook the flag and one by one soul fragments flew out of the flag. They surrounded Guodongjian and roared at Wang Lin. He muttered as he took a few steps back and said to Wang Lin, I also have 1,000 soul flag. If you can win, I'll hand it over. The soul fragments around him suddenly charged toward Wang Lin. Some of those soul fragments were at the foundation establishment stage and others were at the core formation stage. There was even one that had grown limbs and gave off the aura of a nascent soul cultivator. Wang Lin remained calm. He pointed with his right hand and said, Vortex. As he spoke, the soul fragments charging at him all let out a miserable screams and were sucked in by the vortex. Soon, all of the soul fragments besides the one giving off the nascent soul aura disappeared. The soul fragment with the nascent soul aura let out a scream and then used some method unknown to Wang Lin to escape the vortex. Quickly tried to escape into the distance. What's this? Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He reached out and the soul fragment let out another miserable scream as it was caught. Wang Lin looked at this soul fragment and then at Guodongjian. Where did you get this nascent soul fragment? Guodongjian secretly sighed. When he saw Wang Lin use the soul vortex, he had already given up on resisting. Senior apprentice brother Qingmu, congratulations on being the 3rd person in the soul refining mountain to master the soul vortex. As for the nascent soul fragment, I traded a 900 soul flag, along with the soul extracting mountain soul flag production manual for it. In these 3 months of closed-door cultivation with the help of the spirit vein, Wang Lin was able to break through past the nascent soul stage. All he needed to do now was reform his origin soul, and then his cultivation level would return to the soul formation stage. There were only 3 T marks left on his face and Sun Tai's seal was on the verge of breaking. Compared to all of this, his greatest achievement was that he found out that the entire soul refining sect was covered by something invisible. This invisible thing covering the sect would occasionally release soul fragments, and then hundreds of different spiritual energies would come out to fight for them. These soul fragments didn't always appear in the same place. They were scattered across every part of the soul refining mountain. After noticing this, his heart was moved. He quickly took out the soul flag manual and then, after checking it for a while, he was able to see through some secrets. The 3 methods to refine the soul flag were split into soul refining, soul extracting, and soul sealing. Soul refining was a method to refine any soul fragment in the world, and to seal it inside a flag so that it will grow instead of dissipate. Soul extracting was different. It couldn't refine soul fragments. It could only extract the soul from a living person, and seal it inside a soul flag to control. As for the final one, soul sealing, Wang Lin didn't have anything to compare it to and was a bit confused. According to the soul refining mountain, the soul flags were in rank 10s, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, and so on. The more souls a flag contained, the more powerful it was. 10 and 100 soul flags were very common, but once a soul flag gained 1,000 souls, it could use certain spells and its power would depend on the primary soul. In order to make 1,000 soul flag, one had to have a primary soul. This was a limiting factor that made 1,000 soul flags quite rare. Many hundred soul flag had reached the limit of 999 souls, but without a primary soul, it couldn't become 1,000 soul flag. There was only one requirement for a primary soul, and that was that it had to be stronger than all of the other souls in the soul flag combined. While Wang Lin studied the soul flag, he thought about the XIAN deep under the sect. That beast had to be that golden soul flag's primary soul. Wang Lin had collected a large amount of soul fragments throughout these 3 months of cultivation. For some reason, these soul fragments had gathered inside the spirit vein. When Wang Lin checked the spirit vein for the first time, they weren't there. Someone had clearly just collected them just before he checked. As he collected the soul fragments, he understood where all of the soul fragments in the spirit vein went. They were all absorbed by the soul flag underneath the sect. A person and a flag began to steal soul fragments from each other. However, the flag was locked in one place and wasn't as agile as Wang Lin. In the past 3 months, almost 90% of the soul fragments were taken by Wang Lin. There were strong and weak souls among these soul fragments. During these 3 months, Wang Lin found one that was at the early stage of nascent soul, and used it as his primary soul. Not many nascent soul fragments appeared. Only about 2 or 3 a year. Every time one appeared, the top disciples of the soul refining sect would fight over it. Guodongjian's words moved Wang Lin. It was just as he thought. The disciples of the soul extracting mountain extracted souls from bodies to seal into their flags. He decided that he had to find some time he get himself the soul flag production method of the soul extracting mountain and study it. As for the soul vortex, it was one of the 3 techniques inside the soul flag manual. The 3 techniques were condense, soul vortex, and blood sacrifice. Condense was rather simple. Although there were only 10 jades in the soul refining peak, many had made copies of this technique to sell. This technique was based on soul refining. With this technique, one could make the ethereal soul fragment take form and put it inside a soul flag. Soul vortex was a very rare technique. At least this was the case in the soul refining mountain. It required at least nascent soul level cultivation to learn, but not all nascent soul cultivators could learn it. For example, Guodongjian still hadn't managed to learn it. Once this technique was used, it would absorb a large amount of souls. Whether it was used for fighting or stealing souls, it was extremely powerful. The final technique was blood sacrifice. Using this technique would increase the power of the soul flag by several fold. 1/3 of the reason why the soul refining sect had so few disciples yet was so powerful was due to this technique. However, this technique was very difficult to cultivate. Even most of the late-stage nascent soul disciples hadn't been able to learn it. Wang Lin waved his hand and the soul vortex disappeared. He took out a soul flag and then a large amount of soul fragments were absorbed by it. Duodongjian's expression was very ugly. It had taken him years of hard work to gather all of those soul fragments and they were stolen just like this. After letting out a sigh, he could only bitterly smile. This was the rule of the soul refining sect. He came here to steal Wang Lin's soul flag, but his was taken instead. He let out another sigh, clasped his hands at Wang Lin, and left feeling depressed. Wang Lin put the nascent soul he had caught into his soul flag. It soon began to fight with the nascent soul that was already inside. Wang Lin no longer looked at the flag. He knew that the winner would become the new primary soul, and the loser would become the winner's underling. Su Yun and Lu Wei's hearts were pounding as they silently stood to the side. Although Su Yun looked confident before, she never would have thought that this senior brother Qingmu would manage to master the soul vortex. Wang Lin looked around. This place was very elegant and contained a certain appeal. Wang Lin calmly and slowly said, "I'll drop the matter of the 2 of your changing the surroundings of my cave. You 2 leave quickly." Su Yun revealed a pleading expression and said, "Senior apprentice brother Qingmu, the 2 of us won't bother you. If we leave now, the soul fragments we worked so hard for will be stolen. The 2 of us only want a safe place to cultivate. We definitely won't cause you any trouble." Wang Lin didn't speak, but his eyes became cold. Su Yu's heart trembled when that gaze fell on her. Lu Wei was already timid and at this point she couldn't hold it in anymore, so she started crying. Lu Wei was very talented. She reached the mid-stage of core formation relatively quickly. Then, during an outer disciple competition, she gave it her all and became an inner sect disciple. But after entering the inner sect, it wasn't what she expected at all. The inner sect was a place of the strong devouring the weak. It was far too different from what she expected a cultivation sect to be. Wang Lin frowned. He waved his sleeves and was just about to throw these 2 out when he suddenly raised his head and stared at the sky. A green figure that looked like a fairy descended from the sky and landed 100 feet before Wang Lin. Lu Mei. After seeing this woman, Wang Lin frowned even harder. Lu Mei let out a faint smile and said, "Brother Qingmu has recovered most of his cultivation. That calls for celebration." The moment Lu Mei spoke, Wang Lin pointed to the air, causing Su Yun and Lu Wei to faint. "Lu Mei, just get to the point. There is need to pretend. You're only ruining the past image I had of you." Wang Lin stared at Lu Mei. His voice was cold. Lu Mei looked at Wang Lin. She let out a sigh and said, "Wang Lin, a great calamity is about to befall upon you. Go leave planet Sazak." Wang Lin's expression remained calm. He didn't say anything as he waited for Lu Mei to finish. Lu Mei whispered, "I won't lie to you. You already know that I'm someone from the country of Suzaku, but I'm not an ordinary disciple. My master is the #1 cultivator in Suzaku, Zhukezhi. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. Everything in his mind suddenly became clear and he asked, "What happened to Red Butterfly after her battle with me?" After listening to Lu Mei, he suddenly made a connection and came to a terrifying conclusion. Lu Mei revealed a hint of appreciation. She looked at Wang Lin and said, "Red Butterfly was killed by my senior apprentice brother." Wang Lin sucked in a breath of cold air. After confirming his speculation, he said, "It looks like my battle with Red Butterfly was only a dogfight to certain people." Lu Mei bit her lower lip and whispered, "Brother Wang, you should leave. The sooner the better." She looked at Wang Lin meaningfully, let out a sigh and left. As Lu Mei left, she let out a sigh and thought, "Wang Lin, Lu Mei was ordered by Master to leave my mark on your Dao heart. This is a fate Lu Mei can't resist. I can't disobey Master's order. Unless your shadow appears in my Dao heart, there is no way for me to lose this battle between our Dao hearts." Only I, Lu Mei, comprehended the thousand fantasy ruthless domain and showed emotions on the surface while my heart remained ruthless. How could you win? In her eyes there was a hint of ruthlessness, but it was hidden by her acting. Wang Lin was still frowning as he looked at Lu Mei's back. Although Lu Mei seemed to have pointed out the problem, it also left countless uncertainties. Wang Lin frowned again and muttered to himself, "This whole thing is strange. I keep having this weird feeling about Lu Mei. Strange." Shortly after, he looked at Su Yun and Lu Wei. He waved his hand and moved the two women 1,000 feet away from his cave. As he was moving them, his heart started trembling as if he had suddenly remembered something. His right hand reached out and pulled the two women back. Their expressions while passed out were very different. Yu Sun's earlier expression was very strong and determined, and she was talking for the other girl. But now that she was asleep, her expression showed a hint of weakness and helplessness. Wang Lin's earlier impression of the other woman was that she was very weak. However, now her expression was very determined and ruthless. She was clearly one of those that appeared to be weak but was in fact very strong on the inside. Wang Lin felt like lightning had struck his brain and his eyes sparkled. He looked up toward where Lu Mei went and sneered. "Now I understand why I get this strange feeling every time I see Lu Mei. Although she shows all these emotions like she cares, she's actually using it to hide her true ruthless nature." As Wang Lin stared at where Lu Mei disappeared to, his eyes turned cold. "I can't see through Lu Mei's cultivation, so she must have a higher cultivation level than me. Otherwise, she wouldn't become Zhukezhi's disciple. Only I don't know why this woman is coming into contact with me." Wang Lin frowned even harder. He waved his hand and Su Yun and Lu Wei landed dozens of feet away. Wang Lin wasn't a kind person, but looking at the fact that the two of them passed out allowed him to see through Lu Mei, so he didn't kick them away. Lu Mei didn't take this chance to kill me before my cultivation recovered, so her goal isn't for me to die. Her contact with me seemed to be filled with emotion but also some ruthlessness. This is strange. She definitely doesn't have any good intentions. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. Shortly after, he waved his sleeves, walked into his cave, and sat down in the lotus position. Cultivation is no longer a problem. Once my origin soul recovers, my cultivation level will return to the mid-stage of soul formation. The most important thing now is to recover my origin soul. I need to find even more powerful spiritual pressure. Only then can I force my origin soul to reform. Wang Lin pondered a bit before disappearing. He reappeared deep underground where the spirit vein for the soul refining mountain was located. This was the lowest part of the spirit vein. 3,000 feet to this left was where the golden flag was. At this range, the qilin inside the soul flag couldn't bother him. While sitting here, Wang Lin could feel the pressure from the surrounding spiritual energy gathering towards him. Wang Lin took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. This time he didn't absorb any of the spiritual energy, but used the pressure to quickly reform his origin soul. Time slowly passed. Su Yun and Lu Wei woke up to find that they weren't outside the range of the cave, so they had a thought. After the two discussed it for a while, they made a small cave near where they woke up and quietly cultivated. On this day, Wang Lin was condensing his origin soul like crazy by borrowing the spiritual pressure from the surrounding spirit veins when he suddenly opened his eyes. Although his origin soul hadn't fully recovered, it was in a much better state than it was a few months ago. Right now there were only 2 T marks left on his face. Wang Lin's eyes sparked. He spread out his divine sense and locked onto the golden soul flag 3,000 feet away. At this moment, an illusion suddenly appeared next to the flag and a roar came out of it. The giant XIAN appeared next to the flag with eyes filled with bloodlust. Roar! The illusion quickly backed up after hearing the roar and quickly took form. Wang Lin recognized this person. He was the head elder of the Soul Refining Mountain, the late-stage nascent soul cultivator who only needed to comprehend his domain to reach the soul formation stage. Damn it! This 100,000 soul flag is getting stronger and stronger. When will I ever be able to refine the flag with my cultivation speed? The old man's face was gloomy. That XIAN beast didn't actively attack the old man like it did Wang Lin. Within its bloodthirsty eyes was a hint of mockery. Damn animal! The old man shouted. The ancestors have decreed that the flag sealed under the 3 peaks belongs to anyone who can refine it. One day you will be my property. Roar! The XIAN snorted and the disdain in its eyes deepened. Humph! The old man slapped his bag of holding and a faint golden flag appeared. He waved the flag and countless souls came out. At the front was a late-stage nascent soul as the primary soul. Behind it were 10 mid and early-stage nascent souls, and behind them were countless other souls of varying cultivation levels. The old man shouted, 10,000 souls devour! He pointed the flag at the XIAN and then all of the souls let out roars as they charged toward it. The XIAN raised its eyebrows and moved like lightning. Instead of dodging, it charged into the souls and began to devour them like crazy. This was obviously not the first time the old man had dealt with this beast, so he wasn't shocked at all. The old man watched as the beast devoured the souls. Every time it devoured a soul, it would become a bit larger. With his cultivation level, he originally wasn't a match for this XIAN at all, but he specialized in refining souls. With the 10,000 soul flag, he could just barely hold his own. Shortly after, the old man's hand began to move very quickly. He was forming different seals. Soon, blood began coming out of the pores in his hand. His expression turned very serious and then a ball of blood appeared before him. The old man shouted, "Blood sacrifice!" Right after he finished speaking, the ball of blood suddenly exploded into countless specks and covered the whole area. The souls devoured by the XIAN suddenly began to move like they had just received a large amount of nourishment. They were trying to leave the XIAN's body. There was a large amount of souls outside attacking the XIAN under the command of the primary soul. The nascent souls could actually use spells to attack as well. As a result, roars came from inside and outside the XIAN. However, the XIAN didn't panic and its eyes were still filled with disdain. The XIAN suddenly let out a vicious roar. Black gas came out of the golden flag and formed another demonic beast. The 2 demonic beasts looked exactly the same. The old man's expression became ugly. The last time he fought with the XIAN, he was forced to retreat when the second one came out. Now that he saw it again, his expression became gloomy. He slapped his bag of holding again and a black light appeared in his hand. The object inside the black light was a bell with a purple wooden handle that had some complex engravings on it. I traded a very rare treasure for this soul-sealing bell from the soul-sealing mountain just to deal with you, the old man shouted. Then he shook the bell in his hand. As the bell rang, human-shaped beasts with a single horn on their heads appeared and charged toward the XIANs. The 2 XIANs continued to roar as they were being trapped. The old man revealed a look of joy as he focused on controlling the treasure in his hand. However, just at this moment, more black gas came from the flag and a third XIAN appeared. The old man let out a frustrated roar. This time he gave it his all and forced out the third XIAN. However, today was also when he felt the most helpless. At first he thought that there was only one XIAN, but when he used his 10,000 soul flag to trap the first XIAN, a second one came out. The second time he came, he lost to the second XIAN. For his third visit, he spent a lot of effort to get the bell but found out that there was a third XIAN. As a result, he couldn't help but think that after the third XIAN there would be a fourth, fifth, sixth. No wonder no one could take this flag away after it's been here for so long. The old man sighed and was about to give up. But a powerful divine sense suddenly descended from all sides. The old man's expression changed greatly. He wasn't able to resist this divine sense at all. He had only ever felt this when facing a soul formation ancestor. However, compared to back then, the feeling was several times stronger. This must be a soul formation ancestor who came out of closed-door cultivation. The old man quivered and quickly said, "Disciple Wu Daoqi greets ancestor." As the powerful divine sense swept by, the third QIAN let out a miserable scream and was trapped by a ray of black light. It roared as it struggled to break free. Humph! A cold snort came from the void. Then a giant hand suddenly came out of the void and reached toward the golden soul flag. At this moment, the golden soul flag began to move. Then 3 more QIANs appeared and charged toward the hand. The 3 QIANs' eyes were vicious, but there was a hint of dread in them. With one slap from the hand, one of the QIANs shattered into countless soul fragments that all panicked and escaped in random directions. The remaining 2 QIANs quickly pounced and began to fight the hand. Another cold snort came from the divine sense, and then black gas came from all directions. The black gas condensed into a black lance and stabbed toward the QIAN. Wang Lin wasn't able to deal with this QIAN before because his cultivation level was only at the mid-stage of nascent soul. However, now he had broken through the nascent soul stage into the soul formation stage, so he was basically a soul formation cultivator without a domain. Although he was weaker than normal soul formation cultivators, it was more than enough to deal with this QIAN. A roar more powerful than all the other QIANs combined came out of the golden flag, and along with it came a golden aura. All of the other QIANs immediately shattered into countless soul fragments after hearing that roar and moved toward the golden aura. As the QIANs shattered, Wu Daoqi let out a miserable groan. All of his treasures were fighting the QIANs, so he was hurt from the shockwave of the QIANs shattering. Terrified, he was about to back up to dodge when a figure suddenly appeared before him. The figure pointed at him and Wu Daoqi immediately passed out. As Wang Lin stood before Wu Daoqi, he reached out and Wu Daoqi's soul flag and purple wood bell flew to his hand. His eyes sparkled as he stared at the golden soul flag. So this is the real primary soul of this soul flag. The other QIANs were only its commanders. After the golden aura absorbed all of the soul fragments, it let out a roar that shook the entire soul refining mountain. A golden QIAN that looked completely real without any hint that it was formed by soul fragments appeared before Wang Lin. This QIAN looked almost exactly the same as the one Ling Tianho had. The only difference in appearance was its color, though its aura was far weaker than the one that belonged to the sword saint, Ling Tianho. QIAN soul fragment. Wang Lin stared at the beast and reached out. Black gas came from all directions and transformed into a black lance. The golden QIAN let out a roar. Then a ball of golden light suddenly appeared before it and smashed toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin moved forward and stabbed with the lance. Bang! After a loud bang that caused the surrounding spirit vein to crack, Wang Lin backed up one step and the ball of golden light dissipated. Interesting. Although Ling Tianho's QIAN was alive, it couldn't use any spells because it lost its inheritance. Although this soul fragment is much weaker, it can use spells. It clearly still has memories of its inheritance. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He slapped his bag of holding and 2 bells appeared. He threw the 2 bells and they closed in on the QIAN. The QIAN raised its front paw and slammed down. This shockwave caused the surrounding spirit vein to shatter and slow down the 2 bells. Wang Lin snorted. He suddenly moved and lunged forward. The lance flew through the air and pierced through the QIAN. The QIAN let out a roar. Black gas escaped from where it was pierced and turned into soul fragments. Without a word, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out the soul flag. With a wave, all of those soul fragments flew toward his soul flag. The QIAN let out a roar and immediately sucked those soul fragments back into its body. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He moved his right hand and the soul vortex appeared. He began to fight with the QIAN over the soul fragments. With Wang Lin distracting the QIAN, the 2 bells immediately grew in size and closed in on the QIAN. The QIAN snorted out 2 streams of black gas that turned into 2 smaller QIANs, both of which pounced at the 2 bells. Wang Lin's right hand moved and sent out waves of restrictions to seal the 2 QIANs. Then the 2 bells trapped them and they were put away by Wang Lin. Looking at the soul fragments that floated out of the QIAN, Wang Lin's eyes sparkled. He snorted and shouted, "Damn animal, if you had the power of your ancestor I wouldn't be your match. However, You are merely a soul fragment that managed to condense into an illusionary body. Breaking you will not be hard." With that, Wang Lin's hand quickly moved and one by one illusion restrictions appeared. The illusionary restrictions surrounded the QIAN and descended like a net. The QIAN roared and began to struggle, causing the restriction to shatter. However, Wang Lin's hand didn't stop. The restrictions appeared like crazy and continued to land on the QIAN's body. Sweat gradually started filling Wang Lin's forehead, as he sent out countless restrictions in a matter of seconds. The QIAN began to roar even louder, but its body began to slow down like it was sinking in water. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He touched his bag of holding and a small flag flew out. This flag was the restriction flag. With a wave of the flag, countless black lances formed before him. Under Wang Lin's command, these black lances charged toward the QIAN. At the same time, Wang Lin's right hand didn't stop. He continued to create soul vortexes. His right hand moved like a ghost, creating one soul vortex after another. Countless black lances stabbed toward the QIAN, whose eyes were filled with anger. It shook its body and more than 10 balls of golden light appeared around it. Bang! Bang! Several loud bangs could be heard as the lances and balls of golden light collided. Although a lot of the lances were stopped, some still made it past and hit the QIAN. Even more soul fragments poured out of the QIAN's body, and were absorbed by the soul vortexes Wang Lin had set up. The QIAN let out a loud roar and began to struggle even harder, causing the restrictions on its body to shatter one by one. Wang Lin frowned. He didn't think that this illusionary body formed by the soul fragment of a QIAN could be so powerful. This QIAN was already as strong as a late-stage soul formation cultivator. If it's given more time to grow, it will soon reach the power of a soul transformation cultivator. Wang Lin's eyes darkened. He raised his right hand and the beast trap flew out. It landed on the side and turned into the god-slaying war chariot. The beast had weakened greatly after the battle with Red Butterfly. However, the moment it saw the QIAN, its body shook and its eyes became filled with greed. The moment the QIAN saw the spirit beast, it let out a roar as if it had just met its natural enemy. It stopped struggling against the restrictions but revealed an intent to battle. When he saw this, Wang Lin was surprised. His eyes lit up and without hesitating, he sent a seal to the chariot. For the first time the beast let out a roar of joy, and for the first time the beast didn't wait for the chariot to open or try to devour Wang Lin. It charged toward the QIAN with the black chain still attached to it. The QIAN let out a roar. Countless balls of golden light appeared before it to block the spirit beast's attack. The spirit beast let out a roar and smashed through all of the balls of golden light. With a bang, the spirit beast collided with the QIAN. Both beasts let out painful groans. The spirit beast had charged too quickly, so the chains on its body were pulled to their limit. The pain from the chains forced the spirit beast to back up. It turned around and attempted to bite the chains, but no matter what it did, it couldn't break the chain. It then turned toward Wang Lin and began to roar. Its intent was obvious. The QIAN isn't a match for the spirit beast. All of the restrictions on its body shattered, and it was sent flying while a large amount of soul fragments escaped from its body. The moment these soul fragments appeared, they were absorbed by the surrounding soul vortexes. In the blink of an eye, they were all absorbed. The golden QIAN's body wasn't as solid as before, and became more illusionary. As it looked at the spirit beast with frustration in its eyes, it let out low growls but didn't dare to move forward. After all, it was only a soul fragment. When it was at its peak, it was stronger than the spirit beast, but right now it was no match. After the QIAN was knocked away, the golden soul flag became unguarded. Wang Lin quickly appeared before the golden soul flag and was about to grab it. However, the golden QIAN let out an angry roar and pounced at Wang Lin. Wang Lin sneered as his right hand reached out and the chains on the war chariot immediately disappeared. Without the chains holding it down, the spirit beast let out a joyous roar as it opened its mouth and attacked the QIAN. The QIAN let out a frustrated roar. Feeling helpless, it gave up on attacking Wang Lin and attempted to escape. The spirit beast began to chase after the QIAN. A large amount of soul fragments flew out of the QIAN and were absorbed by the soul vortex. Wang Lin grabbed the golden soul flag. Right after he touched it, a cold aura entered his body and went through it a few times before disappearing. Wang Lin revealed a look of joy as he spat out some soul essence blood which the soul flag absorbed. Rise! Wang Lin let out a shout and he pulled the flag up. A mass of black gas the size of an arm charged out from where the golden flag was and went through the entire soul refining mountain. From a distance, one could see the black gas shoot into the sky above the soul refining mountain and beginning to spread. At this moment, all of the disciples in the soul refining mountain stared dumbfoundedly at the sky. They had already noticed the roars from underground, but they were simply too powerful, so no one dared to check. The golden rings between the three mountains gently started trembling and a person walked out from the 8th ring. This person's hair was white and his face was gloomy. Just as he was about to go check what was going on, he suddenly stopped as if he had heard something. He turned around and bowed toward the 2 blood rings, as the ancestor commands. With that, he returned to the golden ring. Wang Lin held the golden soul flag, shook it and said, "Primary soul XIAN, return." In the blink of an eye, the XIAN that had been forced into a corner by the spirit beast and almost devoured multiple times let out a roar and disappeared into the golden flag. Wang Lin felt the soul flag in his hand tremble. He felt very happy as he quickly put it away. The spirit beast was extremely angry. It already had a deep hatred for Wang Lin, and because he had stolen the prey it was about to devour, it charged toward Wang Lin. Although Wang Lin couldn't truly control the spirit beast, he could still seal it. He pointed at the chariot and countless chains appeared to lock down the spirit beast. As the spirit beast roared in anger, it was slowly dragged back into the chariot and then it turned back into the beast trap. Wang Lin didn't put the beast trap back on but completely sealed it and placed it in his bag. He disappeared and reappeared on top of the soul refining mountain. At this moment, the black gas above the mountain was very thick. Wang Lin stared at the black cloud and began to ponder. The noise from the battle should have caught the attention of the soul formation and above cultivators of the soul refining sect, yet no one came to check. This matter is interesting. Wang Lin stared at the 9 golden rings and took few extra looks at the 2 blood rings. Although he hadn't recovered all of his cultivation, he wasn't afraid. Even if a soul transformation cultivator came, he could still tear open space and escape using the star compass. He vaguely saw a pair of ancient eyes filled with kindness glance at him from one of the blood rings and then immediately disappear. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. This person is. The eyes from the blood light disappeared in an instant. Wang Lin pondered for a bit and his eyes sparkled. Whether I stay at the soul refining sect or not doesn't matter anymore. For my origin soul to completely recover, I will need some amazing pills. Other than that, it would require very powerful spiritual pressure. It's not that I don't have methods, but they're a bit dangerous. Wang Lin looked at the soul extracting and soul sealing mountains with eyes filled with determination. He turned into a ray of light as he left the soul refining mountain and flew toward the soul extracting mountain. On his way there, a very exquisite woman was calmly watching from him from the side of the soul refining mountain. She let out a sigh and muttered, "His recovery is simply too fast. If I want to leave my shadow in his Tao heart, I must find out what his Tao heart is. However, I have been unable to see through his Tao heart in our interactions. Senior apprentice Brother Wang, what exactly is your Tao heart?" Wang Lin landed on the soul extracting mountain and spread out his divine sense before charging toward a cave. The cultivator inside the cave was the person with the highest cultivation level beside the head elder, Su Jinshi. The moment Wang Lin's figure appeared, Su Jinshi, who was cultivating, opened his eyes and revealed an ugly expression. Wang Lin stood inside Su Jinshi's save, looked around and calmly asked, "Do you have the soul extracting jade?" Su Jinshi pondered a bit and nodded. He couldn't see through this person's cultivation level, nor had he seen this person before, but he could tell by his clothes that this person was from the soul refining mountain. In the soul refining sect, the disciples of the 3 mountains were allowed to interact with each other. If one had the skill, they could learn all 3 techniques if they wanted to. Su Jinshi had gone to the soul refining mountain many years ago and got a soul refining jade. Su Jinshi clenched his teeth and said, "I can give you the soul extracting jade, but I'm 300 soul fragments short from refining this soul flag into a 1,000 soul flag. If you can give me the 300 soul fragments, I can let you look at the soul extracting jade." Wang Lin looked at Su Jinshi. With his cultivation level, he felt it was beneath him to steal it. He took out his 1,000 soul flag with over 2,000 soul fragments, shook it, and 300 soul fragments flew out. Wang Lin reached out with his left hand and the 300 soul fragments transformed into a black pearl. Then he headed towards Su Jinshi. Su Jinshi was also a decisive person. He took out a purple jade and handed it to Wang Lin. He asked, "What is senior apprentice brother's name?" "Qing Mu." Wang Lin took the jade and scanned it. The jade did indeed contain the method to extract a living soul, how to keep it from dissipating, and finally how to use it to refine a soul flag. The soul extracting jade also had 3 techniques: soul calming, soul luring, and soul poison. Soul calming was the core to soul extracting. If soul calming wasn't used first, the success of soul extracting would be very low. After being used, the success rate increases greatly. Soul luring was the actual technique of pulling a soul out of a living person. As for the final one, soul poison, it was the most vicious and most powerful of the 3 techniques, on par with the soul refining mountain's blood sacrifice. Soul poison used a mysterious method to turn a living soul into poison that could silently kill. Once it has been refined enough, it will turn into a poisonous soul with the power of a core formation cultivator. If it was just this technique wouldn't be much, but a long time ago, a disciple of the soul refining sect betrayed the sect and escaped. Using this technique, he went unopposed in a rank 4 cultivation country, and made his own sect called the Demonic Pill Sect. This person used some mysterious method to refine the poisonous soul into a pill, and then inject death aura into it to turn it into a green core. He called this the green core method, and this allowed him to reach the soul formation stage. He was considered a genius of his time. A green core and a golden core are very different. You can only have one golden core, but you can have many green cores. He used this method developed from the soul poison technique to reach the soul formation stage. He had tens of thousands of green cores at that point. When he attacked, he would send out thousands of green cores to explode. His power was something even soul transformation cultivators wouldn't want to mess with carelessly. After all, tens of thousands of green cores exploding was already earth-shattering. If you were forced him into a corner where he had to explode all of his green cores, the explosion would simply be too powerful. The soul refining sect never took any action against him for betraying the sect, which confused many people. As the person disappeared, his legend also slowly faded into history. Su Jinshi looked at Wang Lin and asked, "Is senior apprentice brother Qing Mu going to go to the soul-sealing mountain to get the soul-sealing jade?" Wang Lin put away the soul-extracting jade and nodded. Su Jinshi bitterly smiled and said, "Senior apprentice brother is better off not going. There isn't a single soul-sealing jade at the soul-sealing mountain. Only soul formation ancestors are allowed to study the soul-sealing jade. The soul-sealing mountain only has a mixture of soul-refining and soul-extracting jades." Wang Lin's expression didn't change. He nodded and then disappeared. When he reappeared, he arrived at the soul-sealing mountain. Then he casually found a disciple and heard the same thing that Su Jinshi had told him. Wang Lin also checked under the spirit vein of the soul-extracting and soul-sealing mountains. Only the soul-sealing mountain had a soul flag under it, and it wasn't very powerful. The soul fragments inside it were also very uneven in terms of power. It took Wang Lin almost no effort to retrieve it. As for the soul-extracting mountain, it was completely empty. It was clear that someone had taken the soul flag many years ago. After finishing all of this, Wang Lin raised his head and looked toward the 9 golden rings and 2 blood rings. After a while, his eyes were brimming with determination. "Whether my origin soul will recover or not will all depend on today. I will fight the soul refining sect's soul transformation ancestor. Only under the spiritual pressure of a soul transformation cultivator can my origin soul finally recover. At that moment, I can use the star compass to escape. Even if the soul transformation cultivator wants to catch me, they won't be able to." Wang Lin took a deep breath and his eyes became filled with battle intent. He turned into a ray of light and flew toward the 9 rings of light. In his left hand he held the 10,000 soul flag, and in his right hand, he held the restriction flag with 999 sets of restrictions. With both flags in hand, he arrived before the 9 golden rings. Just as he approached, he waved both of the flags. From the soul flag the golden QIAN flew out. Behind it were 9 black QIANs, and behind them were countless soul fragments. In just one moment, the entire soul refining sect was covered with soul fragments. The endless howls became the only sound in this world. This was the first time Wang Lin had used the 10,000 soul flag. Its power was beyond his imagination. The golden Qilin let out a roar and charged toward the 9 golden rings. Bang! 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 With a series of loud explosions, the Qilin and the 9 dark Qilins behind it collided with the 9 golden rings, causing them to reveal men and women of various ages. These 9 people were the 9 soul formation cultivators of the soul refining sect. After they appeared, they stared at the Qilins with shocked expressions. The golden Qilin backed up a few steps, shook its large head, and spewed out 2 jets of black gas that spread out. As Wang Lin stood on top of the Qilin, it hesitated but didn't shake its head. Instead, it stared at the 9 of them with a vicious gaze. "You sure have guts." At this moment, one of the middle-aged women, who looked average, among the soul formation cultivators looked at Wang Lin with a gloomy expression and was about to attack. Wang Lin glanced at her and shouted, "Scram!" A monstrous aura spread out from Wang Lin. This aura was too much for the woman to handle. After all, Wang Lin had recovered his cultivation to the soul formation stage. He was just missing his domain. He was someone who fought against Red Butterfly, so his cultivation was a lot more powerful than most people's. This woman was only at the early stage of soul formation, and although he couldn't say he could kill her easily, it would not be hard either. He had killed quite a few of them already. There was a huge difference between someone who had killed others of the same cultivation level and someone who hadn't. With a shout from Wang Lin and a push from his powerful aura, the woman backed up. Her face was pale and filled with terror. Then she immediately became angry. After becoming a soul formation cultivator, she hadn't been shouted at by someone before. However, she suppressed her anger and sneered at Wang Lin. How could someone who became a soul formation cultivator be stupid? She knew that if this person came, he had to have something up his sleeve. The golden Qilin alone was not something she could fight against. Wang Lin stood on top of the golden Qilin and calmly said, "The 9 of you make way. Arrogant." A green-robed old man narrowed his eyes, snorted, and pointed his right hand at Wang Lin. A ray of spiritual energy shot out, turned into a chain, and flew toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin waved the restriction flag and countless restrictions flew out. The restrictions gathered into a black lance and Wang Lin thrusted forward. The lance collided with the chain, instantly shattering it. However, the lance kept going toward the old man. At the same time, Wang Lin waved the soul flag. The Qilin, along with the 10,000 soul fragments, let out roars. As Wang Lin said the word devour, all of the soul fragments charged forward. From a distance, it looked like there was a giant gust of wind inside the soul refining sect. Just at this moment, an ancient voice came from inside the blood ring and said, "Little friend, this old man has waited for you for a long time." As the voice came, a figure wearing a blue robe with hair extending to his waist walked out from one of the blood rings. With just one step, he arrived before everyone. His robe was very large, so as he moved, it also began to move. This person's face was gray and he looked very old, but his eyes shined like the stars. He carefully looked at Wang Lin and then waved his hand. "The 9 of you can leave." That wave contained a powerful pressure. The 9 soul formation cultivators respectfully bowed and disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and revealed an urge to battle. He couldn't see through the old man's cultivation level, but he was sure that this old man was at the soul transformation stage. "Little friend Tung Nyo, this old man has waited 2 years for this day." The old man looked at Wang Lin with a mysterious light in his eyes. Wang Lin was immediately able to recognize these eyes as the same ones from yesterday. He was surprised that this old man knew him. If Lu Mei could find him, then it wasn't strange for the soul refining sect's soul transformation ancestor to know as well. "For our meeting today, I'll first give little friend a small gift," he said, before pointing toward the soul refining mountain. His voice changed from the gentle tone it first had. It was now filled with pressure and killing intent. "Junior Lu Mei, you have 10 breaths of time to get out of my soul refining sect. If you don't, even if you're the disciple of the current Suzaku, I'll still kill you." Scram! Lu Mei's exquisite figure appeared above the soul refining mountain. She looked at the old man with a lovely expression and whispered, "Senior Junior has orders from my master and I didn't anger you. Why be like this? Wang Lin's expression remained normal, but he quickly began to analyze what was happening. The old man calmly said, 6 breaths. Lu Mei sighed. She bit her lower lip and said, Senior, if Junior just leaves like this, Master will punish me. If Master asks what happened, I'll have no choice but to tell him. 4 breaths. Killing intent poured out of the old man. He reached out and the image of a 30-foot-long flag appeared in his hand. Although this flag was only an image, a powerful pressure could be felt from it. For the first time, Lu Mei's expression changed greatly. 1 billion soul flag. She stared at the old man and clenched her teeth before disappearing and leaving the soul refining sect. The old man didn't even look at where Lu Mei had gone to. He then turned to Wang Lin with a mysterious light in his eyes. Little friend Sengniu, how is that small gift? Lu Mei's existence was like a thorn at Wang Lin's side. When she was around, he felt like he was being targeted by a cobra. Now that Lu Mei left, this feeling suddenly disappeared. Wang Lin bitterly smiled. What kind of small gift is this? Senior is willing to offend Suzaku. Rather than feeling happy, it makes me very afraid. This soul refining sect ancestor is very interesting, thought Wang Lin. He was sure that Lu Mei had the ancestor's permission to enter the soul refining sect, or else there would be no way for her to enter. This old man didn't kick her out before. He chose to do it today before Wang Lin. This was to tell Wang Lin that the soul refining sect's relationship with Suzaku had broken down, and that all of it was for him. This was not a small gift. The old man laughed and said, This is not enough to offend the country of Suzaku. The current Suzaku is old and can't make the entire planet listen to him. Wang Lin pondered a bit, then he looked at the old man and said, What does Senior want? You can just tell me. The old man revealed a look of appreciation in his eyes and said, No rush, that was only the first gift. Now this is the second. Sengniu, your origin soul has almost recovered. The reason you came to find me was to borrow my pressure to help you recover. My second gift is to help you recover your cultivation. After that, he didn't wait for Wang Lin to speak and his eyes lit up. A pressure several times more powerful than the spirit veins suddenly appeared around Wang Lin's body. Is it enough? Wang Lin's body trembled. Under this pressure, he felt like there were countless mountains on top of him and crackling sounds came from his body. The gaps between the pieces of his origin soul were closing, but this speed was still too slow. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and said, Not enough. The old man's eyes lit up. His hair began to move without any wind and his robe began to flap. A pressure 10 times more powerful than before came down. Small cracks in space began to appear and spread as a result. How is this? Wang Lin's clothes were soaked by the blood that had been forced out of his pores, the vein on his forehead was bulging, and one of the 2 remaining T marks disappeared. The current Wang Lin could clearly feel the gaps between the pieces close, meaning his origin soul was quickly being repaired. A small portion of it had already fused back together. A sense of comfort came from within his body and eased the pressure. Wang Lin took a deep breath and said, Not enough. Oh really? Okay, Sengniu. It has been 200 years since I last used my celestial spiritual energy. I'm spending a lot on this second gift. The old man laughed and used the celestial spiritual energy in his body without any hesitation. A pressure very different from spiritual pressure descended. This pressure contained celestial spiritual energy. This reminded Wang Lin of the power from a celestial fragment collapsing. His body trembled and his origin soul reconnected at an amazing speed. After 5 breaths, the final T mark on his face was gone. At this moment, a laugh came from Wang Lin and his eyes lit up like the sun during dawn. His spiritual energy suddenly filled his body, and his origin soul reached every corner of his being. He felt a soreness from all over his body that soon turned into a comfortable feeling like he had been limited for far too long. Wang Lin let out a laugh and then Sun Tai Seal collapsed as well. His cultivation recovered to the mid-stage of soul formation. In fact, it was even stronger than before. Wang Lin clasped his hands and said, Thank you. The old man looked at Wang Lin. The praise in his eyes deepened and he said, It is a bit too early to thank me. I have prepared a 3rd gift for you. Do you dare to receive it? Wang Lin took a deep breath. Now that he had recovered his cultivation, He gave off a dominating aura and faintly smiled. Why would I not dare? He understood that if the soul transformation ancestor was willing to expend so much, there had to be something that he wanted him to do, but he just didn't understand what a soul transformation ancestor would need his help for. Good. Songnyo, this old man's last gift is to help raise you cultivation level to the peak of the late stage of soul formation. As for your domain, you are on your own. I can't help you there. With that, the old man flew toward the blood ring. Wang Lin pondered a bit and then followed without a word. Outside the blood ring, the old man reached out and the 30-foot-long soul flag appeared once more. This time it was still only an illusion. This is the soul refining sect's main treasure, the 1 billion soul flag. It is because of this treasure that even though I'm only at the late stage of soul transformation, I dare to fight against an ascendant cultivator. I'll tell you the reason later, but as long as this treasure exists, my soul refining sect will never die. However, if this treasure breaks, then my soul refining sect is finished. Now I'll use the soul force inside this soul flag to raise your cultivation level to the peak of the late stage of soul formation. The old man looked at Wang Lin with a sharp gaze and shouted, "Sit down in the lotus position." Wang Lin looked at the old man and did what he was told without any hesitation. If the old man wanted to attack him, there was really no need for someone this powerful to do all of this. However, Wang Lin's caution never dropped. If he detected anything wrong, he would escape with the star compass. The old man shook the 30-foot flag in his hand and waves of roars came from within it. 10 soul fragments quickly flew out and surrounded Wang Lin. These 10 soul fragments all released purple and gold auras and were filled with arrogance. Wang Lin's pupils shrank. Each of these soul fragments had the power of a soul transformation cultivator. No wonder he can fight ascendant cultivators with this soul flag. Wang Lin felt like he understood a bit more. The old man whispered, "Little friend Tungnyo, all of the soul transformation souls inside this soul flag are ancestors of the soul refining sect. When a soul transformation ancestor is about to die, they give up their body and become a soul fragment to be added to the soul flag. You have to remember that when I die, you must add my soul fragment into the flag as well." The last sentence from the old man was out of nowhere, causing Wang Lin's heart to tremble. He gained some more understanding of what was going on. Just at this moment, the 10 soul transformation soul fragments emitted a powerful gold and purple light that seemed to cover the entire land. A thick source of spirit energy from the 10 soul fragments entered Wang Lin's body. He didn't even have to absorb it, as it all rushed into his body. A strange scene appeared in the sky. There were 10 soul fragments connected with gold and purple light, and at the center was Wang Lin. The spiritual energy inside Wang Lin's body increased at a speed he had never felt before. In an instant, it had increased 1-fold, but it continued to raise without even pausing. 2-fold, 3-fold, 4-fold, all the way until 8-fold, and it was still growing. Tungnyo, remember this old man's name. Dutian. Absorb as much as you can. This old man isn't stingy.